is a poet, artist, and interfaith minister who moved to Taos in 2007 after, she's a buddy of mine, after 40 years in New York City. So anybody who lasts 40 years in New York City, let's have an applause. She began writing poetry in 1992 after suffering a severe stroke. Her work has appeared in over 40 publications, one for each year in New York, including Green Mountains Review, the Midwestern Quarterly, and Notre Dame Review. And I'm so happy to welcome Susan Varon. Bravo! Lots of noise.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And I'm so pleased to be reading with Will and Jane. As she said, I began writing poetry in about 1992 after I had a really severe disabling stroke, which quickened some aspect of the left side of my brain because I hadn't even liked poetry before. So, proposition. Let us say there is breath in our bodies, saliva and tears, that we have no reason to think we're under any curse of frogs or fate. Then why not walk out the door and take whatever life sends us? Even things that we would never have thought of, like planets in retrograde or free-falling bodies. And let us say you love me in your own green branching way, trusting your instinct to know what to do in all the silent pauses, little crannies. Then let us be brave enough to swim forward, thrusting with bold, wild strokes, sending up waves of deep sweetness, resounding us bells, saying yes to everything that's left.
Wow. Meaning of life, right? We were just talking about
Yeah, right. But please hold any applause till afterwards. Okay, this is at pasture. Here at pasture, we are all cows with big udders and small feet. We can roam anywhere, pulling up the dry grasses, pretending there is juice enough to sustain life, butting each other like bulls to see how it feels to have the world for the asking, to be groomed instead of hosed down, how it feels to be royalty munching flowers from an adoring populace. We dream and chew our cuds and stand bemused and sagging, thinking of being poets, thinking of being glittering thinkers, stepping quick and lively in the world.
Very nice. Can we do that?
Okay. I grew up on the shore of Lake Michigan and went to college at the University of Chicago, lived in Chicago, but it was a close enough, short enough trip for me to go home fairly often on weekends. I never had much to say. From the beginning, the waves seemed to have more to say than I did, and the trees, shaping themselves perfectly against the sky. What could I say that would matter to them? I had no complaints whatsoever. Then when I grew away from beauty, the pattern was already set. I was still looking around for things I could be grateful for and saying thank you. The train between Chicago and Racine was a wonder. I could sit in the bar car feeling I was among friends, look out the window at the backs of buildings, look into windows of tenements, and know that the stories behind their pale curtains deserved to be told more than mine. And sometimes I would travel home and be met by my father, wearing his fedora at an interesting angle, not rakish, but full of potential. And I would feel a throb of gratitude that this man, my father, had come through the dark streets for me, only for me. For many years, my daughter and I, when she was growing up, would travel back from New York to my hometown in Wisconsin, where we would spend a few weeks with cousins and friends. This poem takes place there. Mythology. Way down the field, past the troughs of shadow, what is unspeakable begins in the weeds, standing high as a man in the rustling silences. The division is right there. The sun never reaches the roots of the weeds, but feeds them from above, drawing them up, ruffling their hair. Meanwhile, a spider walks quickly across my notebook, a living watermark, diagonal, following its inner gyroscope toward fulfillment of its next great need. We come here every year to experience our separateness from the human and our unity with the mute world of all other living things, which is not mute at all, but speaks a language of clicks and chirps and whirs, sighs and cries. In the lacy shade, two squirrels flow across the lawn and disappear into the trees. Bird stands in the sun, thinking, calling up a worm from the juicy earth. I don't think that's how it works, but it could be. The mythology I create is mine. In 1995, my now ex-husband and I got a divorce, and I moved out of our Manhattan apartment and into the ground floor of a two-family house in Astoria, Queens. When I moved out, the day Brownstone Brothers came and put all the things in the truck and drove off with them, he drove me, following them in his car, helped me unlock the two doors and prop them open, raise the blinds, watched me answer the questions when the boxes came in and the furniture. Where does this go? Where do you want this? And then I was alone for many nights, getting used to the barking and the hollering, the house ticking over, banging and sighing. So much lonesome noise on the outside of me. By living through the nights, I earned my right to the days, watching through frosted windows the early workers passing. I was warm and purposeful with my tea and single lamp. In summer, landlord in his undershirt, watering the garden, emptying the trash outside my window, scrape and clink. His broad little wife and confiding, she couldn't go out on days when the wind howled. She was too short and fat to make any headway. There were mice. Sometimes the furnace went out and I would wake to a frozen morning and stand dazed in front of the open oven door. 2 hard winters wandering, learning the streets and their merchants, waiting for the bus on Steinway Street, happy for the lowness of roofs, the sentimental looping of telephone wires. The old Italian men gathered in clumps on Ditmars, on Steinway, spoke their dark tongue, peered at me, considering. I am not your kind, I thought. Their wives, all hidden away in the home, living for their husbands, their families. I am not that sort of person. Yes, I would stand in front of the open refrigerator, wanting something I could never have. At night, phone calls from the other borough were transatlantic, transforming the distances that stretch like bridge cable into a kind of flexible elastic. But I never thought I was wrong. Never. Even tugging the cart of laundry up the concrete steps, even waiting for the bus late at night on a dark and windy corner, never, until years later, lying awake. And then I forgave myself for being mistaken.
I'm sorry.
Later, I moved back into Manhattan. Lived on a corner apartment on Lexington Avenue and 76th Street. One summer, the old two-story mom and pop stores across the street were torn down and a huge apartment building began to rise in their place. New York City, 1998. I listen to the hiss and swish and think of Texas burning, how they need a rain like this one that keeps the workmen waiting for a break in traffic, their lunch bags damp in their hands. One man is still hammering an under melody that gets monotonous. A scrape, tap, clink goes with it. And the backup beep of a truck positioning itself to let down its whole load, everything it's carrying, so it can start again. I am listening for a lesson to pass on to the men and women under wet umbrellas who will ride the bus away from here and never know what they are missing. The careful tap and thunk of building that goes on even in the rain. Slippery as the new wood must be, the concrete just poured yesterday. I wonder how they get up there to walk against the sky, and how they send their voices down to me. That's not what he said. A fragment floating to my window. And I'm not surprised. In this rain, everything is confusing. Even if you look forward, look into eyes that are looking back at you. You have to put out your hand to be sure the person you're talking to is part of this immediate world. I moved to Taos in 2007. One more writer introduced to this place by the Wurlitzer Foundation. This blind love for everything. This blind love for everything is all I have left. I walk out to get into a friend's car or get the mail. It's moment by moment now. The plushy red upholstery, the way light slants into the mailroom, sure of its welcome. Of course, everything is speeding up, but at the same time, it's slowing down. Candles are burning, and the slim blue book with a painting by Chagall on its cover waits for me to open it. There are people in the painting, but it's the angel flying down to help that speaks to me. He doesn't know if he'll be able, but it's his role to try. Isn't that all of our stories? wanting to turn the beam of our tenderness in any direction where it's needed, or at the stage where we're only trying. At the store, in the car, watching a slow person crossing the street in the cold, feeling how numb his fingers must feel without gloves, wishing I could materialize for him a warm scarf, a golden sun to live inside him. And this last poem tries to express the my feeling about being in Taos. One road. There is one road through town, and then the back ways circling round. This is the extent of it. 5 traffic lights, 3 roundabouts, a lot of speed bumps to give us a chance. I'm still a newcomer after 5 years, entranced by the plurality of pickup trucks, rutted dirt roads, the mountains cupping us in their hands. Some say God is everywhere. Others say, why doesn't he help? Meanwhile, the sun's slow rise every day tells the same story for those ready to hear it. Life is hard or easy. I don't really know, except for me, for whom it is both at once. A mixture of dark and light, semi-precious stones scattered, pink quartz, dark obsidian. The whole opportunity of this place, why I am here and staying, is that when the heart is broken open, there are hands that reach out, a soft sky that seems to hush. This is a place that knows about brokenness. And when it happens to you, be sure that you will be held, that this very street and neighborhood will be revealed as a love field in which you will hear the lesson being sung softly, repeatedly, for however long it takes to make you whole.